Morning guys, this is Mr. Stark and I want to give you a quick introduction to basic telecom. What we're going to be covering in this course is primarily the installation of the old phone cable. Typically it would have come in maybe a 25 or a 50 pair cable. You can see some of it stripped out on the table here in its various forms. We're going to be learning a lot about a color code system that has to deal with some of this phone cable, and we're going to be dealing with primary colors and secondary colors, also known as blog bro, for blue, orange, green, brown, and slate. And then your primary colors within this wrap of cables is going to be white, red, black, yellow, and violet. This is important because if we don't understand the USOC or Universal Service Order Code of the cabling system, we won't be able to take all these different colors that are spread out within this cable, and we won't be able to tie them into this 66 block. So when you first come into lab, you're going to be seeing a bunch of new tools and splicing blocks, and you're going to learn all about them. My first introduction is within this 66 block. You'll notice that there's a lot of these little, we call them tangs or binding posts, that are in a row on this 66 block. And if we were to count every single one of these tangs, we'd have a certain amount of pairs, and that's what we're going to use to tie in that 50 pair or 100 pair or 25 pair conductor, whichever you have in your lab. So really this is nothing more than a splicing block. The first two rows are actually connected to each other, going down vertically on the block. Then they're isolated in the middle from the third and the fourth row. The third and the fourth row are connected to each other. So what we end up having here is, if we were to take the main trunk line and tie it in, we would then put a jumper between the second and third row. We'll call it a bridge clip. And our field wiring might be tied into the fourth row, which leaves that goes to your maybe your phone in your wall or something out there in the field. Second and third rows are typically jumped out so that that phone line can get from one place to another. So we're going to learn a lot about the early phones. We're going to learn about the quad cabling system. Black and yellow and green and red are two different phone line systems back in the day. Now we're typically using a 4-pair conductor, UTP, twisted shielded category 5E or category 6 cable to do the job of what these early phone wires used to do. Some of the tools that we're going to be using: video data voice mapping, wire mapping testing to make sure that when you tie in your wires or your patch cords, they're appropriately assigned to the designation on the pins. We have a stripper slash crimper for RJ 11 or 45. We have a punch down tool that we're going to be using to punch down the wires that are on this block. You'll see this in lab. Then we're going to be learning about the various jacks or work area outlets that we use in the field with the quad coloring system that's associated with that back on the binding post terminals on the back. You may see these different types. You may see a biscuit jack, and the jack would then go into the housing, into the jack itself. We'd snap that in depending if you had video data. And the wall outlets that we use to put the low voltage cabling into. Universal wire strippers and scissors strippers, and a pass-through category 5E RJ45 crimper, which is a nice tool. Makes your patch cords a whole lot easier. So I'm throwing a whole lot of new language. Basically we're talking phones, we're talking 50 or 100 pair cabling, the various tools, and the early technology that would be covered in the early chapters of your homework, which you really need to get a head start on so that you can understand the beginning of the process all the way up to the next process. The next process being the next course called Telecom Cabling, where we talk more about the data transmission as opposed to phones, and then the systems that we use to tie in those data systems as well. So just a quick introduction. You'll see more videos on how to use all these other tools, and I'll see you at the next one. Thanks.